a little bit of time today to get through this. This is probably going to be a multiple day thing because I know your regular teacher has a lot going on. So for this time being, everybody should already have their Acquainted with the Night poems, correct? Thumbs up. Awesome. Yes, yes, awesome. All right, so first things first is we are going to read the poem and then discuss what some of those elements of a poem are. When discussing this, everybody should have out a highlighter. Hold up your highlighters. Awesome. Okay. I think that's everyone. Okay, cool. So everybody should have a highlighter. And while we're reading, I want you to just highlight some words or phrases that you may not quite understand or that you're not able to understand given the context. Okay? All right, so some of the things you can write in the margins of your paper that we're going to go over are the voice, all right, so the speaker and tone, diction, imagery, if you can't get them all written down, no worries, we'll go over it, all right, the sound and rhyme, perfect, sound and rhyme, perfect, and then we'll talk a little bit about the structure. So to start, we're going to read the poem. You can follow along with me. It is Acquainted with the Night by Robert Frost. I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye, and further still in unearthly height, one luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. Awesome. So, now that we've discussed a little bit about Robert Frost, his life and everything like that, as you guys already know, because we discussed this previously, he lost his mother and father at a relatively young age. He lost 4 children. Only, I believe, two of his children of the 6 outlived him. Everybody else passed away when they were pretty young. He had 1 child who died, 1 son who committed suicide, 2 children died from illnesses, and he also lost his wife to heart failure after she survived breast cancer. So just kind of think about that when we're discussing later on with the other lessons, what the speaker's reasoning for writing the poem might be. So the voice, the speaker, and the tone. The tone refers to a poet's implied attitude toward a subject. Tone is an abstraction we make from the details of a poem's language. The use of meter and rhyme, the inclusion of certain kinds of details and exclusion of other kinds. Particular poems convey reverence toward its subject, or cynicism, fear, awe, disgust. So here, as we previously discussed, he is giving us a very depressed, a dark, a dreary, a sad tone, right? His reasoning may be that he's reflecting on something, you know? So every poem, every line in a poem has meaning, right? So that would be tone, you know, what the implied attitude is toward the subject. What is the attitude toward the poem? Diction and imagery. Simply put, diction refers to word choice and is intimately referred to imagery and figures of speech because a poet chooses a word to achieve a certain sensory, emotional, or intellectual effect. So choosing, I have outwalked the furthest city light. Outwalked the furthest city light. He's gone the farthest away from light as possible, right? So that could be symbolism, which is another form of like diction, right? So figures of speech, symbolism, allegory, things that you guys have all discussed in class many times. And I want you to keep that in mind because again, we will be eventually writing a rhetorical analysis on this poem. So we're going to work in small groups after we finish this. Okay? Yes, exactly. So we are going to work in small groups in which you will discuss some of those highlighted words and phrases. You're going to use dictionaries or dictionary.com. And you can also keep your laptops out. You can use poets.org like we already have pulled up. Perfect. So now we're just going to talk a little bit about sound, rhyme, rhythm, and meter, right? So syntax, essentially. Syntax refers to the order of the word, elements of fiction. So it's the way the writer chooses words, arranging them in sentences and longer units of discourse. In fact, syntax reflects the way a writer sees the world. For example, remember when we discussed Faulkner? Yeah? Yes, perfect. So his convoluted, complicated, long, and often formal prose, it gives you kind of an idea about his minimal, fragmented, and interrupted style. And then structure. So interpreting structure, you really just kind of discuss, like, first, the use of the details in the poem. Second, looking for repetitions and oppositions. Third, uncovering the implications of repetitions and oppositions. Fourth, using your observations to make sense of the poem. And then evaluating and critiquing the poem's literary merit. So you guys are already really, really smart and have gone over a lot of these things already. So it's great that you already are pretty well versed in poetry, right? So we know that this is written in iambic pentameter. Does anybody know why? You can use your boards, no hands up, right? Because I didn't get permission slips. We didn't want to do that at this school. So use your whiteboards and go ahead and write. Like, anybody know why what is iambic pentameter? Yes. That's good, correct? 10 syllables, that's what I was looking for, yes. So iambic pentameter has 10 syllables per line and is a way of writing poetry. An example would be, the which if you with patience ears attend, which is a bunch of random words, right? But if we look at acquainted with the night, I have been one acquainted with the night. I have been one acquainted with the night. 10 syllables per line, iambic pentameter. So everybody should be writing that down. Great. Okay, so our next step is going to be working in small groups. So I already told you, dictionary.com, poets.org, right? So everybody should have at least a couple things highlighted if they're unsure. And you're gonna, first on the left-hand column of your page, you're gonna put arrows to those words or phrases and give specific literal definitions for what they mean based on your research with your small groups. On the right-hand side, same thing, arrows pointing to the thing that's highlighted, but you're gonna write what you think it means, okay? So, literal, symbolism. Left, literal, right, symbolism, okay? Cool. So again, we're going to work in small groups. Everybody already pulled sticks, so we should have groups of 4. I should have 5 groups of 4. So yeah, all right, you guys can begin that here right now, and then we will come back in about 10 minutes and discuss what we found.